Welcome, everybody, to Cinema Royale. I am Travis Hobson of Punch Drunk Critics, and on this show, we are talking Immaculate. This is the new film starring Sydney Sweeney. It's not Madam Web, which I'm sure she's quite happy about. It is a religious horror film, and not typically my favorite genre, but we're going to talk about why I kind of like it a little bit. And joining me to talk about it is my good friend, Karen Peterson. How are you doing, Karen?
Hey, Travis, how are you?
I am very good for having you here, of course. It's always a pleasure to have you join me on this show. So thank you.
Thank you.
Let's talk about Immaculate. Now, I won't go too deep into the plot, but Sydney Sweeney plays Sister Cecilia, a young woman who is about to take her vows at an Italian convent. Karen, I love one of the opening scenes with her when she's being questioned by the customs officers, and the one guy's like, "What a waste! What a waste!" It kind of sets the tone for the movie because it's she's a beautiful young woman in this place and where she's going to have no freedom, no free will, no nothing, and she's kind of someplace she really rather shouldn't be. And she goes to this place, and it's a place for older nuns who are kind of on their last days, and she's instantly hated by one of the younger sisters there. Cecilia gets sick. She discovers that it's not just a typical sickness, that she's actually pregnant, which is something that should not be able to happen because she is a virgin. So the doctor approves. I guess they check you. They check you pretty good, I guess, at these convents. So she's a virgin, so she's having an immaculate conception. This instantly throws the whole place for a loop. She is treated like, well, a saint, basically, and but there's also something horrible that comes along with this. She sees visions, all sorts of other horrible things start happening, and the women that she was close to suddenly start to turn on her as well. But ultimately, it becomes about Cecilia and how she may not want to have this birth, but is she in control to be able to make that kind of decision? Karen, I'll let you start with this, but I'll just say for me, the reason why I like this movie, just right off the bat, at least it comes in with an agenda. And I kind of like that. I think it has an agenda on its mind. And to me, it doesn't feel like your typical religious horror movie, which to me are kind of bland and boring and all familiar. But what did you think about Immaculate? I have an idea, but you tell me.
It definitely has an agenda, and I think that it's got a point that it wants to make and even probably thinks it's making, and I don't think that it accomplished any of its goals. I really don't. I think that Sydney Sweeney, I really like her
Me too.
as an actress, and honestly, my experience watching this movie as I was going through it, it's only what, an hour and a half or so.
Yeah, it's not long.
Yeah, and as I was watching it, I found myself entertained. There's a couple of moments that are, like kind of spooky, and it's like, okay, I'm into this. It was when I was driving home and really thinking about it that I started to find all the ways that the plot just completely breaks down and makes no sense. And this young woman who seems to be a pretty intelligent person, just never asks some really basic questions that someone in her situation definitely should have asked.
Yeah.
And the fact that she never does just makes it very frustrating. And we never really, I mean, you talk about how, start to get the feeling that she's not super thrilled about this pregnancy. I'm actually really curious where you got that from, because I don't think they really ever interrogate how she actually feels about any of this other than being a little freaked out that it's happening to her. There's no conversation about what's her role going to be once this child is born. There's no conversation about how she actually feels about any of it. And it's one of those where by the end nothing feels earned, because it just it feels like her character, just Sister Cecilia, just gets so shortchanged by them expecting the audience to just kind of fill in a lot of gaps in the story.
I think that's fair. I kind of articulated some of that in my review about the middle part of the movie where she just becomes like this walking vessel. And like she's not expressing anything about the wild shit that's happening to her right now. Like we're not getting any of that. But I was thinking about that too. And I was like, I wonder if that was a concerted effort, like that was a choice, because she doesn't really have the freedom to do that in this place. She doesn't have anyone to talk to about it. There's no one there she can talk to about it. The one person she trusts there no longer trusts her after this whole thing happens. And then she's gone. So she doesn't really have anyone to do that with. And also, she's in this place, where she just does not have the choice to make any of the decisions she would be having a conversation with these people about. So I don't know if that's, so I kind of feel like that was on one hand deliberate, and on another hand, it could be shoddy writing. I don't know. I can't tell.
It is hard to know for sure, but and I think that part of the problem, as you mentioned, this person that she does have to confide in at first, ends up not being someone that she can talk to not long after, but she doesn't even ask that person some of these basic questions like, I was really drunk. uh Maybe there's another explanation for how this happened. There are men around.
Right, right. Yeah, I know. But I think she also finds out not too long after the pregnancy.
It's not too long in movie terms, but for her, it's several months. It's pretty
That's true.
far into
It
it
does go by
before she
time.
finds anything out.
It does go by trimesters or whatever. So I
Yeah.
guess that could be true too. But I liked that this movie because I think horror has never been my bag. I'm more of a slasher guy if I do like horrors at all. But religious horror is like the bottom rung. Like this is like the stuff I really can't get into. It just doesn't do anything for me. But I like this one for not feeling like the rest. Sure, there are some familiar tropes and iconography, whatever, but I didn't feel burdened by it in this movie the way I do in a lot of others. And I think that's one of the things that I ended up kind of liking about it.
I think what sets us apart from other religious horror films is, generally speaking, um, movies like The Exorcist, The Nun, you know, those are rooted in this idea of good versus evil. um Good will triumph. There's a reason to maintain faith, and with Immaculate, that's a little bit it's a little bit thrown out the window. I don't want to go too far into how or why, but this is very much like an anti-religion movie, and not in a sense of like it's trying to say all religion is bad, but it's very much saying that you can't hang on to those typical notions of faith. You can't trust in a savior really,
Yeah.
to solve this problem. And so I think that's where it's definitely different. And that's where it's like I applaud the effort. I just didn't think that the final product was really good. And I think it had a lot of potential, but it just didn't meet it.
It's the Dune philosophy. It's like you can't put your faith in messiahs. You can't. And in this movie, I think a lot of it is about how a person's faith can be twisted and corrupted against them, because that's kind of what happens to her. She is a person of deep faith, and it is used against her throughout this entire movie. And I think that's one of the more effective things that it gets across.
I agree with you, but I also think again at what 89 minutes or so,
Not a lot of time.
her changes come about way too quickly.
Right.
And it doesn't, for someone that is as faithful as she is, as unwavering in her faith as she is at the beginning, where she ends up at the end, the turn is too fast. Um, we're supposed to get the feeling that this has been a gradual process, but we really have no evidence of that until some things happen
Yeah.
at the climax of the movie. And it's like I don't believe that girl would now do these things no matter what her situation is. I need to see some like cracking of that foundation along the way, and I just didn't see that.
I I think I appreciated that final scene for what it was. I think I appreciated that final scene and her final action, which, like you said, is a total 180 from the person we see at the beginning of the movie. I appreciated it for doing something that I don't think any other movie of this type would have done. I feel like most of these movies take the easy way out because, like you said, it's usually good versus evil in most of these cases. And so taking the easy way out, going the safe route is kind of expected. But in this one, I feel like they were making a statement, and it was a statement that I was happy to see them make, whether I agree with it or not. I was happy to see them do something that I think will start. I think it's going to. I know in the theater I was at, there are a lot of stunned people at that final scene, and that made me happy. I was happy to hear those gasps. I'm
I
at this point. I'm happy that for a movie that has something to say and that will make people talk, whether the rest of the movie is perfect or not, or whether or not I agree with it or not. I'm happy to see a movie that has something that it wants to get out, and I was happy for that.
I honestly though, I hear what you're saying, and I like the screening I was in was it was a small theater, but it was full. So there
Mhm.
were a lot of people, there were a lot of reactions throughout. Um and I got the sense at the end that the big shock that people were expressing was more to do with the fact that it really does feel like it comes out of nowhere. It does not fit with this character.
Okay.
And it wasn't a wow, like I applaud them for going there. It was more of just like, wait, what? This doesn't make sense. It did not feel like an I understand what they were getting at, but it did not feel like an earned ending.
What did you think of Sydney Sweeney in this? She's also a producer on this movie. I think she's starting to kind of like in a Margot Robbie sort of way, starting to take charge of her career and make choices like this, producing movies like this and starring in them. What do you think about her in the movie?
I like her. And honestly, she's the reason that it took me until I was, after the movie's over and I'm driving home to realize how much I didn't like it. Because she is so compelling. She's such a fascinating actress. Margot Robbie, some other big stars of this kind of era, they tend to just have big characters. Sometimes they'll have, quieter moments, but they tend to have these big characters. Sydney is fascinating because she can very convincingly play like a shy teenage girl or a like really boisterous, young woman. And it's always believable. And I think that that works for her in this. This is definitely a character that she's playing that's, very demure, I mean, she's out of her element, doesn't really speak the language. Luckily, there's a lot of people in Italy that speak English. but but she's very convincing. And so because of that, it took me a while to realize, wait a second, I had some problems with this movie.
Yeah,
So
I really liked her in this too. Even during the period where we were talking about where she doesn't get to do as much as we would have liked her to do, I still found her compelling, even during those scenes. I think she's not somebody I've thought about like a whole lot, honestly. Like I watched her in Euphoria, thought she was fine and whatever. But in terms of like movie roles, I haven't really thought about her all that much. This is the first time I've really like paid attention to her, in a lead role, and I thought she was really good. And I hope if she's going to be a producer on her own movies, I hope she continues to, whether they are fully successful or not, make do movies that at least have something to say, or at least are trying to at least do something different within genre if she can. If she keeps doing that, she's gonna have a fan in me.
yeah.
So yeah, I'll be curious to see what this is gonna do at the box office too. I can't quite put my finger on it. Like I can't tell if it'll be a success or not. It's not like it's not a Bloomhouse or anything, as far as I can tell. It's not a Bloomhouse or something. So I don't know what this is gonna do.
Yeah, Neon is still kind of trying to find its way with box office success.
Yeah.
It tends to do very well in the streaming world. But yeah, I don't know. I know several of my friends who are outside of the industry are very confused why they keep seeing trailers for pregnant nun movies and real like it took them a while to realize there's two separate movies that were they were watching trailers for because there's another one coming. So
Which one is that?
well, I mean, it's the Omen movie, but
Oh God, the
it's
first
that
Omen.
one's a little different. But yeah,
First Omen. We just got our screener for that too. Our screening for that too, and I totally forgot about it already.
yeah.
So,
So
and
people are a little confused, but
I'm actually kind of excited for that one in a weird way. I don't know why, but because it's got Nell Tiger Free, who I like. So yeah, it's about the actresses basically. All right, well, Immaculate. Karen and I are kind of split on this. I think I liked it more than she does. I think we both can see something in it though, right? Like even if it's not great, at least it's doing something a little bit different, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, we can agree on that. Good. Immaculate opens in theaters this week. Yeah, so go and check it out if it seems like something that's your bag. Karen, you got anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
You can catch me on my podcasts, Citizen Dame and The Watch and Talk.
Where can they download it? Where can they download it?
All the places,
All the places.
all the podcast places.
All the places. Okay. You
Yep.
haven't invited on either show in a while. So just saying.
We've never had a male guest on our Citizen Dame
I know, but
podcast.
he's supposed to break that. He's supposed to be the lead.
That spot is reserved for one person, and I won't tell you who.
Is it the one I already know?
No.
Okay. All right. All right. I'll wear a wig. Anyway, this has been Cinema Royale. I'm Travis Hobson. That is the lovely and talented Karen Peterson. You can find me every single day at punchdrunkcritics.com, and you can download Cinema Royale anywhere you get your podcasts. Thank you very much, everybody. I will see you next time. Bye. Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're laying down, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest stuff.